Mutinda, Tabitha.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise to support the first statement by Senator Boni in regards to the issue of the fake fertilizer.
Just pick one statement and then comment on one, comment on one.
I stand guided, Mr. Speaker, no problem. And directly to the point is that the issue of the fake fertilizer that we've seen out there is an issue of trying to paint the government in a very negative way by cartels trying to come up with fake fertilizers and trying to find it in the NCPB stores so that it can be seen that the government is trying to give its own people what is fake, what was not according to what is supposed to be. So I agree that the culprits, the cartels that are doing this should be brought to book, Mr. Speaker.
Point of honor from the Nairobi Senator, Sifuna Edwin.
Chairman, Mr. Speaker, I don't really mean to interrupt my colleague, but could she substantiate her allegation that it is nothing more than a scheme to paint the government in bad light? Because this is a matter of concern for all Kenyans. Some of this fertilizer has been sourced from government stores. Some of them have come from county governments. It is a matter of concern for all of us. And if indeed you have evidence that it is nothing but a bad PR scheme, let her substantiate, Mr. Speaker.
Which is standing order?
That should be 105, responsibility for statements of fact.
Okay, Senator Tabitha Mutinda.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and my senator for Nairobi. Your concerns are valid. And if you would have let me, as you have always been a very good listener, my point is that the cartels should be brought to book, because in that it paints it negatively. That was my point that I'm driving in support of this statement by Senator Boni, so that Kenyans stop getting into the worry that they are in right now. They are not sure if the fertilizer that is in the market is correct or incorrect. So I'm in the agreement that they should be brought to book. Quickly, let me support the SECI's statement in regards to the issue of the ECD teachers. Mr. Speaker, I do agree with this statement, because then if our students are getting low grades, like as low as grade E, I am in the front line, Mr. Speaker, supporting the Kenyans who got grade E in this country by offering them scholarships of ICDL so that they can be able to better their lives. In that regard, you realize the Ministry of Education curriculum has a grading system of grade A to grade E. But then where do we leave our students who have not been able to score the highest grade, and they have scored the last grade, and yet they contribute to the economic empowerment of this country? It's very key. Lastly, to Senator Modama's statement in regards to the pending bills, I want to state that as the Vice Chair of Finance and Budget, I've asked our clerk to be able to submit all the pending bills for all the counties, because we've realized all elected are asking for the pending bills, which is very important, which we agree. And also, further to the issue of the CR12, we can't wait to be able to fast track this, and I would request actually, if you would actually not only ask for Machakos County. I know as we speak, the allegations of the governor of Vinyandeti, they are doing business with the Sun. It's an allegation, it is all over in the social media, and it would be prudent if actually we do not execute for Machakos County, but for all the 47 counties, so that we can be able to get an all-compassed report in our committee, and you can be able to share with all the members. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
I think you've been overtaken by events. You did not much a speed of concluding. So, let's get Senator Zen, and then the two important leaders, the deputy minority leaders from both sides, to conclude this.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and I rise to support the statement by Madam President, Senator Beth Siango, on the regional integration regarding the access of opportunities and improvement of the quality of life and status of the Dasenach community in Marsabit County. Mr. Speaker, coming from a very marginalized community, I want to reiterate and add onto the voice of the Senator for Marsabit County that the Dasanach community are super marginalized. Mr. Speaker, this is a community that spans across 3 countries, that is Ethiopia, South Sudan, and Kenya. But we have realized as pastoralists that those in South Sudan and the Ethiopian side are very well taken care of and given the respect and the decency they deserve to be citizens of those respective countries. But Mr. Speaker, the ones in Kenya are living under complete marginalization, abject poverty, and they are actually, they fit to be living like wild animals. Mr. Speaker, where the Dasanach people live, I know coming from Samburu County that they are my neighbors, and I know that most of them do not even go to school. They are just living like headless chicken in the forest, and it is unfair for us to consider our nation a sovereign state that is taking care of its citizens when we do not ensure inclusivity of all marginalized communities. Mr. Speaker, Article 100 of our Constitution provides for, advocates for promotion of representation of marginalized groups and gives marginalized and minority groups and gives Parliament full power and responsibility to take care of these marginalized groups by enacting laws that protect protect them, Mr. Speaker. Article 204 establishes the Equalization Fund, which also provides basic services like roads, water, and health facilities. This community considers those things very foreign, Mr. Speaker. And Article 56 also puts this states that the state should put in place affirmative action programs. Like the other day we were just discussing about the equalization funds, and these are the communities that were actually in my mind while I was trying to argue this. Mr. Speaker, marginalized and minority groups should be given the right to participate in governance and given special opportunities in education to restore their decency, their human decency. Mr. Speaker, I know that some may argue that the Dasanach people maybe have dual citizenship, belong to Ethiopia more than in Kenya. But our constitution equally gives right to dual citizenships, and through that, Mr. Speaker, we need to take this matter with the seriousness and urgency it deserves, and I'm so happy that the matter has been referred to the Committee of National Cohesion, which is chaired by the Honorable esteemed Marsabit County Senator, and these people come from their community. So I beg that whatever report they come with, we support it fully as Kenyans, because we cannot be proud to be a majority community without taking care of the marginalized community. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
You are debating a statement, you know. Deputy Majoli Terinda.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Speaker, sir. Thank you for giving me this opportunity. And I want to support Senator Harwale's statement. And I know even why Senator Tabitha is also struggling to talk, and the Deputy Minority Whip trying to correct. Because being in this side of the government, and you see what is happening on the ground, it is a shame. It is really big shame that we can allow fake fertilizers to be distributed in Kenya. And we know what that means. It's about food security. When it means food security, it will affect all of us, even those who are selling that fertilizer. So, I know Senator Olekina has mentioned about a Nakuru company that we also in the media. But you know who was running that story? It's an Anenamo, and everybody knows when an Anenamo runs a story, you need to revisit the story again, once again. So I'm on it. I'm really on it because it comes from Nakuru County. I'm on it to ensure that whatever Anenamo said, it is true or it's false. And I will bring it in this house because I come from Nakuru County. And you know, Nakuru County Senator is who? It's the one who is watching day and night to ensure that Nakuru County does what is required. We must set a good example in this country. That will be number one. We will ensure that our county, if you want to know how counties are governed, you will come to Nakuru County. Thank you. So I'm there, and I'll ensure that I bring that here to ensure that I can see that company that was mentioned by Alan Namo. And we know who is Alan Namo. So you all know him, what he does. We deserve to have all the information. So let's get all the information so that we don't get lost and we don't even say things that will make us sometimes look stupid. So I'm on it, and I'll bring it here to ensure that we all know what is happening. Thank you.
Lastly, but not the least, Deputy Minority Leader. Honourable members, Senator Boni Karwari. Honourable members.
Mr. Speaker, this is a House of Records. And as a journalist in this country, Mr. Speaker, I think it is also important that we also protect the industry. I don't think it's fair and right to despise a practicing journalist in the manner that I've heard Alan being despised. The Speaker, that is not right. But having said that, the Speaker, I will be very brief on the comments for the statement sought by Senator Boni Alwale. You know, the Speaker, we are talking about fake fertilizer, and I think we are getting it wrong. What we are dealing with is not fake fertilizer. It is stones and donkey feces. That's what we are dealing with. Speaker, you know, when you say fake fertilizer, somebody may think that there are elements of fertilizer in that substance. There are reasons, Mr. Speaker. This country, Mr. Speaker, we have had many scandals around the fertilizer subsector. And in most cases, there has been issues to do with overpricing, hoarding, delivering fertilizer too late to be of any benefit to farmers. But what we are dealing with now, Mr. Speaker, is a new law that we have sold the National Cereals and Produce Board depots have been used to store and distribute stones and donkey feces in the name of fertilizer. Mr. Speaker, in a functioning democracy, the NCPB boss...
There's a point of order from the majority leader.
Mr. Speaker, understanding order number 105, Senator Wambua knows that as you go on record, we need to be factual on the statements. We have all followed this fertilizer, fake fertilizer scandal, or whatever you may want to call it. But up to now, Senator Wambua, I don't think that there has been any clarification or confirmation that a farmer went to NCPB store and bought fake fertilizer. The fake fertilizer that is in distribution and all the stories that I have watched, because I've followed these stories so far, are people that are tricking farmers and telling them, as you wait for government, I have others on the side which I can give to you. But to bring down a reputable institution like NCPB, Mr. Speaker, for whatever gain, I don't think, Mr. Speaker, that is fair. Unless Senator Wambua wants to table before this House a confirmation that he has bought fake fertilizer from NCPB, Mr. Speaker, then we will be convinced. But as it is, Mr. Speaker, I'd wish that he confirms to this House. He can carry on like the rest of the colleagues and everybody who's concerned, but tread within the realms of logic and being truthful, Mr. Speaker.
So, Senator Wambua, can you clarify or substantiate that statement?
Mr. Speaker, you know I respect the majority leader. I don't understand where he's coming from, because it's a matter in the public domain that farmers have complained that the fertilizer that they have received is not fertilizer. And I will repeat it again, it is stones and dung feces. Secondly, Mr. Speaker, wait, Mr. Speaker, you know we can only speak through you. So why can't, relax. Speaker, for the information of this House, this is a statement that has been brought here by no other than the majority whip. Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, it is on record that a multi-agency team has impounded fertilizer in SCPB depots. It's on record. Mr. Speaker,
What you are going to do, Senator Wambua, what you are supposed to do is either you withdraw or you provide those facts. It is very easy.
Yes, I'm ready to be informed by Senator.
No,
Sosi.
first is substantiate. And then you will be informed.
Speaker, the agitation, the level of agitation with the majority leader is scary. Mr. Speaker, for purposes of making progress, let me withdraw that statement. So that we make progress.
You are always gentleman. Yes, proceed.
Let's make progress, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I still insist that the Kenya Bureau of Standards and the National Cereals and Produce Board have a responsibility and a duty of care to farmers in this country, Mr. Speaker. That because they are the state agencies through which this all-important commodity is processed and distributed to farmers, they must ensure that the product that gets to the farmers is legit product, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I was saying in a functioning democracy, the bosses of these institutions, Mr. Speaker, would have resigned to pave way for serious investigations.
Senator Sifuna, avoid speaking on behalf of other members. Please. Senator Sifuna, you have been doing so well the last few weeks, but now I can see the good things you have been doing. You want to. So continue.
Mr. Speaker, let me.
Senator Eno Kwambo is well informed. Very, very well informed. I don't
Mr. Speaker, I wouldn't mind being informed by Senator Sifuna or Senator Ososi, because you know they are consumers of fertilizer, Mr. Speaker.
No,
and they are farmers, Mr. Speaker. They are farmers. They are farmers.
Senator Wambua. Senator Wambua, can you conclude kindly? But Senator Sifuna and Senator Oroba.
Mr. Speaker, I thought I was in the Senate.
Can you conclude your statement?
Mr. Speaker, I will move from that fertilizer business because I think it's bringing unnecessary tension in the House. I will comment on the statement by my brother, my neighbor, the senator for Kajiado, Senator Seki, on the matter of ECD teachers, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we must, as a House, we must understand that the Constitution of Kenya has devolved ECD for purposes of building strong foundations for the education of our children. The teachers that are given the responsibility to teach our young people must be teachers who are properly qualified. But Mr. Speaker, as the committee handles this matter, I would suggest, strongly suggest, that the scheme of service for ECD teachers be rolled out uniformly for all the counties, Mr. Speaker, so that the teachers that are beginners, entry point for ECD teachers, then they know what their starting salaries are, their career progression path. Mr. Speaker, an ECD teacher in Kitui County today should aspire, and rightfully so, to be a university professor in 5-6 years, 7 years to say. But Mr. Speaker, the situation as it is now, the ECD teachers are being treated very, very badly by almost all the county governments in this country. I come from a county, Mr. Speaker, where somebody has woke up in the morning and decided to cut the salaries of ECD teachers and send others home without following procedure. The Speaker, on that matter, I think the committee should take it very, very seriously. Lastly, Senator Kavindu, I thank you for daring to open a can of worms, because that's exactly what you have done. For daring to lift the lid on the level of corruption and theft of county resources by county governors and their families and their cronies through companies that are registered either directly under their names or through proxies. Mr. Speaker, I would urge the committee to which this statement will be committed to invite senators from all the 47 counties so that we look at the rot in our counties and expose the theft that has been taking place for all these years. Mr. Speaker, I support the statements and ask my brother, Senator Majority Leader, to relax. We are okay. We are okay, Mr. Speaker. Thank you.
Senator Kinyua, let's get your statement under 52.1.
Asanti Bwana Spika kunipa fursa hii. Nasimama kauli ya jumla za bunge maseneta kuhusu ongezeko la wizi wa mifugo katika kata ya Yethi, kaunti ya Laikipia. Mheshimiwa Spika, nimesimama kuambatana na kanuni ya kudumu 52.1 kutoa kauli kuhusu swala la umuhimu la kitaifa kuhusu hali ya usalama katika kaunti ya Laikipia. Mheshimiwa Spika, hali ya usalama katika kaunti ya Laikipia imekuwa ya kutatanisha, hasa katika kipindi cha wiki moja iliyopita. Visa vya kutishia hali ya usalama katika kaunti ya Laikipia vimekuwa vikiongezeka kadri siku zinavyopita. Mheshimiwa Spika, kisa cha hivi punde ni kile kilichotokea usiku wa jana tarehe 25 Machi. Wezi walivamia lokesheni ya Yethi katika eneo la Ndaiga, wodi ya Mgogodo Mashariki katika kaunti ndogo ya Laikipia Kaskazini. Katika kisa hicho, wezi waliokisiwa kuwa 9 waliiba na kutorosha ng'ombe 4 na mbuzi 30 mali ya Bwana Martin Moge Wangai, chifu wa Yethi, pamoja na jirani yake Bwana Boniface Muriithi. Si hayo tu Bwana Spika, walimshambulia Bwana Mudhoga wa Karoiro, kumchapa kichapo cha mbwa na kumwacha hali mahututi. Mheshimiwa Spika, hali hii ya utovu wa usalama imezua hofu miongoni mwa wakazi wa kata ya Yethi na maeneo jirani, hasa ikizingatiwa visa hivi vya utovu wa usalama vimezidi kukithiri kila uchao. Inatia hofu zaidi visa vya utovu wa usalama vikiwalenga maafisa wanaotarajiwa kuisaidia serikali kuu katika utekelezaji wa usalama mashinani kama vile chifu. Licha ya kuwa na fununu kuwa hawa wezi walikuwa wameonekana na polisi pamoja na magari maalum na vyombo vya usalama na ndege ya lanchi ya Borana kutoa usaidizi wa angani kuwatafuta hawa wezi, hawakuwapata. Lakini hatimaye jioni saa 3:10 walimshambulia chifu na kuimuibia mifugo yake. Mheshimiwa Spika, ikiwa chifu atalengwa katika mashambulizi ya aina hii, basi ni dhahiri kuwa usalama umedorora sana na raia hawapo salama kamwe. La kusikitisha zaidi ni kwamba shambulizi hilo la hivi punde katika kata ya Yethi lilifanyika katika makazi yaliyo karibu sana na kituo cha polisi, ila polisi hawakukabiliana kwa dharura kuwakabili majambazi hawa. Mheshimiwa Spika, nikihitimisha kauli yangu, ningependa kuvisihi vyombo vya kitaifa vya usalama kukabili hali hii ya utovu wa usalama katika kaunti nzima ya Laikipia ili kuhakikishia raia uhuru wa kuendelea na shughuli zao za kila siku pamoja na usalama kama vile ilivyonakiliwa kwenye katiba ya nchi. Hasa ningependekeza maafisa zaidi wa vitengo mbalimbali vya kudumisha usalama kuelekezwa kwa dharura kushika doria nyakati za usiku katika maeneo yaliyolengwa hasa na wezi wa mifugo na visa vyovyote vile vya ukosefu wa usalama katika kaunti ya Laikipia. Kwa kufanya hivyo, wakazi wa kaunti ya Laikipia watahisi kuwa vilio vyao vimesikizwa na hatua kuchukuliwa. Bwana Spika, Rumguti vile vile kulishambuliwa vijana wawili walipokuwa wakitoka kanisani na kuuawa papo hapo, Bwana Spika. Kwa hivyo Bwana Spika, tunahitaji usalama. Nashukuru na nasema asante Bwana Spika.
Next order.
Order number 8, the Local Content Bill, Senate Bills number 50 of 2023, first reading. A bill for an act of parliament to provide for a framework to facilitate the local ownership, control and financing of activities connected with the exploitation of gas, oil and other petroleum resources, to provide a framework to increase the local value capture along the value chain in the exploration of gas, oil and other petroleum resources and for connected purposes.
Next order.
Order number 9, the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bill number 6 of 2023, second reading.
Okay, Honorable Senators, the debate on this bill was disrupted on Wednesday, 20th March. And Senator Andy Okech and 8 minutes. So if he is allowed, he can use his 8 minutes. If not, we can get to the next senator who wishes to contribute to this bill. This screen is full again. I don't know who is for this bill or the previous statements that we end. So if you want to speak to this particular bill, I can see Olekina, who is not in the house. Asike, not in the house. Mwinyi Haji Faki. This is the County Boundaries Bill, Senate Bills number 6 of 2023. That's what I'm asking. Now it's only Senator Alon Cheruiyot, Majority Leader. You are the then okay. We have Senator Ososi Godfrey. But I can see you. You spoke twice. Let me give you 2 minutes to rectify this mess. Oh, yeah, Senator Chalge Samson.
To county boundaries. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Sir, from the onset, I want to congratulate my chair, super chair, and ranking member, my brother, Senator Moses Kajwang, for bringing this bill. I think this bill, Mr. Speaker, is long overdue. Mr. Speaker, this bill will cure a lot of challenges that we have seen, Mr. Speaker, over time. Mr. Speaker, I want to say as Nandi County, we want this bill to be enacted to law. Because as per the provisions of Article 181, Mr. Speaker, 188, sorry, of the Constitution for the procedure of county boundaries, Mr. Speaker, I know even as we have a discussion of this, we have had a challenge of delimitation of boundaries, especially since we had postponed it in the last year, Mr. Speaker. I saw in an advert or a newspaper that 24 constituencies across the country are supposed to be wiped out, what we call protected constituencies. Mr. Speaker, I know you understand, because you are immediate former of the lower house, that there are specific constituencies that were called protected, and there are a number of 24, Mr. Speaker. On this issue of county boundaries, we have challenges. You see Taita, and the neighboring, there is a number of Kwale. We have challenges in Nandi County with Kisumu. We have also with Kakamega. So, Speaker, I know there is issue of Sondu between Kericho and Kisumu County, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to agree that the people who review will have the status of a High Court, Mr. Speaker, so that when they sit, it can be approved by the President, Mr. Speaker. In this resolution, these county boundaries, we must be very careful because, one, it breeds inter-community differences or fight, Mr. Speaker. Number two, Mr. Speaker, it also affects revenue collection. Mr. Speaker, the chair, who is also the sponsor of this bill, understands very well that most of the counties have found it a big challenge, Mr. Speaker, especially when in terms of revenue collection on on-source revenue. Like Maseno Town, Senator Kalwale will tell you it is in Kakamega. Senator Professor Tom Ojenda will tell you it is in Kisumu. The same thing with other areas, Mr. Speaker. So the status that has been given in these county boundaries disputes, we must ensure there is a committee. Mr. Speaker, and I want to propose something out of curiosity, that people who sit in these mediation committees should be people who are above 60 years, people who have eaten salt, ama wamekula chumvi. Mr. Speaker, or let me borrow by saying who have eaten salt, or sorry, who have experience, Mr. Speaker, because they have what we call institutional memory. You cannot form a mediation committee and put a 20-year-old. You know, these things also need reason, sobriety, it needs veterans, and I can see Senator Faki is excited, because these are people who become repository of history and wisdom. So on this mediation committee, Mr. Speaker, while I agree that we must have a reflection of women, young people, majority should be people who are old enough, who have experience, who have background in issues of land adjudication, who have legal background, Mr. Speaker. But at the end of the day, we must ensure that this mediation committee is well properly, Mr. Speaker, and also form mediation committee that people who have a good track record. You know, in Chemase, for example, where we check Kisumu, there is what we call peace corps, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, and clause number 12, because I'll just make 5 points, is powers of the committee, they should be given, so that we summon, Mr. Speaker, we resolve. It is the intention of this law that has been proposed, Mr. Speaker, to resolve the challenges. And when they have the status of the High Court, it will have the status of as the same as Senate, Mr. Speaker. They will enjoy the quasi-judicial powers, Mr. Speaker, to ensure they summon and ensure any witness, Mr. Speaker, especially on boundary issues, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of petition, of course, this is a right, Mr. Speaker, given to every Kenyan, Mr. Speaker. And I want to say this. I saw somebody saying, Mr. Speaker, that representation. We represent Kenyans. You can ask something about Nandi, I can ask about Meru, Mr. Speaker. The petition to Parliament is, everybody can do it. It's an obligation, Mr. Speaker. We should not be worried that so-and-so has petition. Therefore, it should be treated like that, Mr. Speaker. And all this, and I'm like clause 17, it has said even a senator, an MCA, a member of county assembly, and any other person, Mr. Speaker. In the issue of IEBC, I know at the moment, Mr. Speaker, and I know the change at the chair, is that at the moment, we're having challenges in the constitution of IEBC, Independent Elections Boundaries Commission, Mr. Speaker. I remember we were somewhere where we are doing selection panel of IEBC. They were supposed to recruit commissioners. Because of the NADCO reports, we were being told we wait and hold on, Mr. Speaker. But are you realizing that the number of wards and constituencies like Banisa and the rest do not have members of parliament? So where do we disfranchise? Do we disrepresent, Mr. Speaker? So those are some of the challenges that we must look at the House, because even the independent under clause 23 and 24, that the IEBC should have one commissioner. So if we were to pass this law, and the president has appointed the chair under clause number 24, sorry, Mr. Speaker, where will this commissioner come from if IEBC at the moment is not constituted, Mr. Speaker? And we are waiting for the NADCO report to be implemented, Mr. Speaker. So I think as a country, and I'm happy there is National Land Commission, PS representing physical planning, PS licensed surveyor, a number of secretary practicing advocate, Mr. Speaker, so that they can agree. And of course, qualifications are obvious reasons, Mr. Speaker. And of course, conduct of and removal from office, Mr. Speaker, inquiry. That is what I want just to react on. Second last point in the clause, a commission established under shall within 90 days of receipt of the petition. Mr. Speaker, since boundary is sensitive, I would propose that 3 months is it's a bit shorter. Because if you are looking at historical boundary issues, you cannot tell me 90 days is sufficient. I would propose, and I wish, Mr. Speaker, the sponsor of the bill would be very keen and listening as I dispense wisdom on this. The Speaker should listen carefully, and he should have a notebook and a pen, because I'm making Solomonic directions from here. Mr. Speaker, on the issue of petition, I think looking at historical issues, including even injustice, and you are the chair of JLAC, and you understand this, 6 months should be sufficient. I think 90 days is not, it's not, so that you get into in-depth of the challenges, and therefore, I propose, because you might have to listen, you know, Mr. Speaker, I happen to be taught by a Kisumu senator, and he has written a book called Conveyancing. When you read the first line in the foreword of that book, it says, land is an emotive issue. It goes ahead and say, land is identity of a real man. In my culture, if you do not have land, and even African setup, you are nobody. So land is a sensitive issue. Today, when you go and say, I want to listen to an issue of Kisumu and Nandi, it can shock the entire counties. Today, if you go to Sondu and try and listen to a submission in Kisumu and Kericho, in Kisumu and Nandi, in Kakamega, Tabolwa, between Chimoi and Nandi, in Kakamega and Masop, you might find the entire county will come there. So how do you process within Chateau? I wish, Senator, through the Speaker, let us add more days, like 6 months, so that you become thorough when you are presenting your position, Mr. Speaker. And I'm happy they have said members of public, which is under Article 118 in terms of public participation, Mr. Speaker. On the number clause 41, I will combine with the other. Mr. Speaker, those are just procedural issues. With this issue of 14 days under clause number 42, where it says the commission shall within 14 days of expiry of the period specified, I would propose that we change into 3 months now. It's to finalize the report because of report writing, review, and ensuring that we go. So the sponsor of the bill, Senator Kajwang, should look at that so that we give them time for when, Mr. Speaker, after submission of report and reviewing, at least we give it, if at maximum, let us do it 60 days or 90 days, Mr. Speaker. And then Parliament shall come into, and Mr. Speaker, I'm happy clause number 43 has captured this. And in fact, I agree with them that does not, where the commission does not recommend the alteration of the boundaries of a county, no further action shall be taken in the respect of petition. And if there is recommendation of alteration of the boundaries, the Senate shall within 14 days of receipt shall resolve to either approve or reject the recommendation. Mr. Speaker, you know, members of lower house have an habit of shutting down our bills. If you should say Parliament, I think here should be Parliament so that we fast track. If you use the word Senate, they will go and shut down our bills, Mr. Speaker. And we have agreed in the spirit of your direction of the chair of sponsoring. We can agree, we put here, instead of Senate, we say Parliament, so that, because when you are telling boundaries, those boundaries are within those constituencies. And that is why when you are arguing, and I think last session, Senator Kajwang through the Speaker and Senator Wambua, when the issue of security came to this house, some people are saying it is a national government function. But we are asking, when you discuss about security, it is within counties. And therefore, even as we do this in the spirit of good faith, let us just say Parliament so that we include National Assembly and be able to push, Mr. Speaker, and ensure, Mr. Speaker. Because a number of those issues shall be. I didn't see, but maybe when you were doing a reply on the issue of public land, especially forests and others, what should we do? For example, if there is a cut line of Mao, or in Tindred, or in any other, the hills, the Bungoma Hills, Mr. Speaker, when you find out, go today and find out that the cut line of a forest has been altered. This is boundary. So I'm talking about if it is a forest, a public land, what happens? So I want to challenge the sponsor to ensure that, in concurrence resolution, of course, I think it should be very easy as clause number 44, Mr. Speaker. If the mediation committee arrives at a common, each house shall vote to approve and reject or parliamentary mediation. And I think that is very easy. We can go for division. But Mr. Speaker, I don't know what we should do because it will create disharmony. For example, if you are to alter border between Nandi and Vika, for example, how will Senator Otsosi and Senator Cherargei vote? Or what will be the implication? So we should also be careful so that we don't antagonize communities who have lived side by side historically, Mr. Speaker, because even some names have been changed. For example, in Nandi, we used to have what we call Nandi escarpment. When the people were doing maps, Mr. Speaker, they have called it Nyando escarpment. Yet it is in the middle of Nandi, for example, around Chemase, Kaborog, in that area, in Tindred sub-county towards Chemelil, Chemase ward, and even part of Aldai constituency, Mr. Speaker. So there are names that have been changed over time. What happens to renaming of some of those areas? We must agree under this bill, even as we alter, for example, the boundary. Should we, for example, why would we call Nyando, yet it should be Nandi escarpment, Mr. Speaker? So those are some of the challenges that we are going to ensure. On the resolution, I agree. And then for presentation of the petition, of course, a petition shall not be admissible by the Senate. But I thought it should be a petition shall not be admissible by the either house, either Senate or National Assembly, where a general election to be held within 1 year. I think, Senator, through you, Speaker, Senator, the sponsor of the bill should look at the wording so that, you know, the Constitution says, Mr. Speaker, and you are an authority on this, it is Parliament is comprises under Article 93, both National Assembly and the Senate. And even in terms of public presentation of petition, you can either present a petition to the Senate or National Assembly. So we should be careful so that we don't give order to our brothers in the lower house of having a habit of shutting down our bills, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, by all and large, I want to agree with the bill. I hope when it comes to the Committee of the Whole, and thank Senator Kajwang, I hope this time round, with the spirit of the Office of Court Sponsoring and the interpretation of Article 113 in terms of money bills and other challenges, Mr. Speaker, I hope in this time round, we must, as a Parliament, allow this to pass. This is what will spur the issue of boundaries. And ask the National Assembly, they should be busy ensuring that IEBC is reconstituted, Mr. Speaker, so that these constituencies that are supposed to be called protected constituencies, Mr. Speaker, they should be working with us to ensure IEBC is properly reconstituted so that when we pass such laws, there is a way, Mr. Speaker, that they can ensure that going into the future, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, of course, the schedule and how this has been done, I don't know where Senator Kajwang got all this, but I want to believe it is probably 1992 districts map that has been used in 1992 Act on the issue of district and drawing boundaries, Mr. Speaker. So, Mr. Speaker, and I want to say, and you know these counties are intertwined. Over the weekend, I was in Kapcherop. Kapcherop is a border, a forest that borders Pokot South. It borders Moiben, Mr. Speaker, and it borders Cherangani, Kitale. And then it borders on this other side, Marakwet West and Marakwet East, Mr. Speaker. So it is, these communities are the same. When you meet Maasai of Kenya and Maasai of Tanzania, they are the same people. When you go to Mount Elgon, you have Kalenjins of Kenya and Kalenjins of Uganda. So these boundaries were just put there by our colonialists too. But I want to ask Kenyans, even as we pass this, let us not it be a way of dividing us as a nation. It should unite us and ensure that we have a more civil and decent way of ensuring boundaries issues is going to the future, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, with all those many remarks, Mr. Speaker, I want to support this bill and also assure the Kenyans that we shall do what necessary needs to be done. and allow this nation to move into the future, Mr. Speaker. And also send my condolences, Mr. Speaker. There is a famous TikToker that was being buried today, Mr. Speaker, called Brian Chira in Kiambu, Mr. Speaker. We commensurate with their family and friends, Mr. Speaker, and ask young people to be responsible with their lives and to be careful, especially when we go to reverend around the city and our towns. Mr. Speaker, with those very remarks, I support and congratulate Senator Kajwang and wish him well with the bill. Asante sana.
Senator Beatrice Ogola, she's not in. Senator Ekoma James Lomenen.
Mr. Speaker, sir, I support this bill with amendment. Mr. Speaker, sir, if you find what is happening in West Pokot, Turkana County, Samburu, Marakwet, Tarakaniri,
Senator Kinyua.
you will
Senator
find...
Kinyua, Majority Leader, please consult in silence if there is anything of the sort. Consult in silence if you must.